All right, gentlemen, let's get this party started so we can get it in and get on the damn bus, right? So, first of all, thanks for popping in here to see what we're going to do here with Res. Now, that doesn't spell Res, does it? Unless I became instantly dyslexic. IAM.
That's the new name.
Yes. As far as that goes, it's something completely different than I'm used to talking about. But nevertheless, that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, specifically with Res. That is identity access management. Now, those of you who attended Dennis's session probably got a good look into what that can do for you in terms of onboarding and offboarding. And I'm not going to be repeating much of that. However, I will probably draw a few references to it. So what's this all about? Well, essentially, we hear a lot of these forums about how to squeeze every little last ounce of ions out of the machinery and optimizing and all this other stuff. Every once in a while, it's kind of been my feeling, you kind of forget somebody has to get in there somehow, right? And at the end of the day, who decides that? How many here think it's IT?
No.
Good, that means you've been paying attention to Dennis. Of course, it's HR. And if you ever have that discussion with a client, what would you rather have? The ability to sign into your network or get paid? Tough choice, right? So as far as IAM goes, there are two major disciplines that are involved here. There is RBAC, role-based access control. We are very familiar with that from the Citrix world. If you're in this group, you get that published application. If you moved out of that, you lose some applications. This is the basic fundamental stuff. But what is not covered is what you might define as attribute-based access control, ABAC. This is important stuff to know because as we build servers or systems that deliver tons and tons of applications, there are some of them that are delivered in terms of access. It could be a time of day that they're available. It could be due to approval route for somebody. All this stuff ties in with attribute-based access control. Now, there are several ways that this can be employed, both right where the user is workspace, where we do workspace management. This is something that Res has done for many years. However, there is also from the lower points of the installation, which in some of the clients that I've been working on as of recent, is actually from the firewall level up. So this is a multi-pronged effort. IAM is not just about creating users and deleting users. It's a complete lifecycle management of these guys. And once they're in there, making sure that they have the stuff they need, making sure they don't get to go where they're not supposed to. So workspace manager, great for all the security business, whatever, but you need to have multiple lines of defense, which is why, in terms of firewalling, we deal with Palo Alto endpoint protection. You say, okay, so now he's talking about IAM, how the hell did we get over to talk about firewalls? Easy, because a firewall rule, let's say there's a secure system in here that you only get access to if you get access to the proper control front end for it. So, just like it doesn't matter if I put a shortcut on your desktop, yeah, here's an app, but you can't run it for one reason or another. You need to make sure all the prerequisites are open all the way down the line. So what we're actually doing is putting together a shortcut out on the desktop based on roles and approval workflows, but also coupling that with the automation necessary in the data center to make sure that firewalls are handled as well. Now, these are the two departments that we probably work a lot with. Platform support. The difference is the support, well, that's kind of the IT department's outward-facing entity, while platform is usually never facing. HR, they kind of live their own life separate over here because they are the ones, well, initially when you get hired and fired, and they're the ones that get measured on how cheaply they can accomplish both. So HR, you'd be surprised in the kind of scenarios that we see, how manual, and I would almost say 1990s, that the processes flow, that yes, they might as well have a very expensive system to gather all the core data about you, your name, and so forth. And I said expensive system.
Yeah, well,
Try a German piece of software, 3 letters.
yeah,
Right. So having said that, usually what might happen is that it might spit out a username. Some still adhere to the old notion of doing initials, which from a security point of view is a bad practice, because you should never be able to or infer a user's login credentials from his name. That's one thing. But that the actual checking, hey, do we have this user already, is something you do by hand. Then they might send an email down to IT, and then they create the user, maybe using a script. And there goes the automation. So what IAM fits in is bridging that gap. It is the ability to actually provide the users, once they're in, that the stuff they need, either they get automatically, or the stuff that you can't request through a portal. You cannot request, hey, I can't figure out how to make indentations in Word. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't create a service for making people smarter. Yeah, maybe a self-service video or something, but come on. Realistically, sometimes you need people support to help people do people things. So this is where we essentially want it. The users should have access to all the normal stuff they need to get their stuff done, but also there will always be a need for the support department. We're not trying to get rid of those guys. Now, in order to get this started, I think Dennis showed you how he basically looked into the HR databases, where sometimes you may need to wrangle some data in order to get the proper output, not just for res or anything else. It depends on how things are structured, so you get to use a lot of pens in there. But you can say essentially these are the 3 pieces that are necessary. Employees, and the departments, and where they work. Now the core data here that we need is some unique reference term, his name of course, and whatever other attributes. That's everything from shoe size, blood type, and DNA sample, take your pick. But you also have your departments, which again has to be referenced uniquely, and who works in which department. Essentially this is what it looks like. These are the relations you need to pull out in order to do IAM or role-based access. It does not give you ABAC. It does not give you attributes. Because you say, oh, but there's attributes in AD, there's attributes in the user. That may not be the case. You may need to gather these from a lot of data sources. I'll give you an example from another client I've been working with. So they have 2 different systems. There's a big German system for the employees, but guess what? All the consultants, which there are about 400 of, they're created over in SharePoint. So that means you need to go shop in 2 different places in 2 different, very different data structures to get the stuff you need, just to create a frickin' user in AD. So, having said that, let's see something interesting. See if we still have a connection here. It's kind of a bit, and yes, Alex said record your demos, which is why that I banked on that if that didn't work, screw it. I'm just going to go on to the next thing here. Because once you start on an IAM project, you might say, okay, well, now you told me what is the first things I need to gather. Again, it was the raw data. It's the same thing when we do Citrix project. It's a damn database all the time, right? Same thing with REST. You come out there, oh, we have a database ready for you. Doesn't matter if it's local or cloud or whatever, and sometimes they don't. In this case, starting off an IAM project looks like this. That's the green one. Be aware you're going to have a hump. What does that hump represent? That represents typically workshops en masse. Because you will often find out that there's lots of application owners within an organization where you're going to be interviewing and figuring out how is this application given out? And many times you'll find out they think they know, but actually they don't. And it's sometimes that, for example, when we hand out administrative access, I'll give you an example. So a client of mine was using a GIS application for, to which there was a administrative program for, not for administrators per se, but administrators of that application. So every once in a blue moon, these guys physically have to take their laptop, go down to the service desk, enter, have them log on as an administrator, so then they themselves, because they're not allowed to be local admins, could make their changes, and then they could walk back on up to their seat again and continue working. That doesn't sound very efficient to me, does it?
Nope.
So, discovering those pitfalls, those places, that's really where you start to get to know an organization. That's where the skeletons, they start pouring out of the closets. And yes, it will say, oh my gosh, expenses are going up. But once you can start implementing the first services, the first pieces of automation, and for all intents and purposes here, yes, I work with RES technology, but this goes pretty much for anything. That's where you see the value. However, the red one, that is the cost of scale. Because we can all, you heard the old saying, the only constant is change, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. You're gonna get more users through, you're gonna get more applications, and maybe even more sites as things progress. So having a unified way of handling that is absolutely key. And in the client, we can't explain that to, well, I'm afraid to say, I have had to walk away from some where, you know, it simply didn't register. We like doing things the old way, the manual way, and you don't come here with your fancy automatic stuff here. We like sitting all day pulling people out of the
years like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
With technology that hasn't changed for 100 years.
Yeah. To which,
So why change now?
yeah, exactly. Well, this is, I have a suggestion for that. I would postulate the following. There's nothing more dangerous than a geek with a spreadsheet. And this is where you need to lay down your PowerShell and the other stuff and start calculating in man hours. What does this thing take? Now, there are certain things that are easy to get done. Like David and Gunner's products, it's too easy, damn it. No time at all to get that stuff done.
That's because you're smart, Max.
Anyway, this is just an example of the thoughts you need to be discovering in an organization. This is a feasibility chart. What it means is it worthwhile automating this at all? So again, you kind of have your sweet spot down here to say, all right, if I have something that's, that I spend 1 minute on and I do it 50 times a day, well, the annual savings, I actually have this in an Excel spreadsheet. It's going up on Redsguru in a few days when I get back home. But this is kind of your sweet spot. These are the things you want to focus on. This is why you need to go in and engage with the client and find out where are the things we can do. It's not ordering flowers for the first day they start up. No, you'll probably find it's other things that they do repetitive over and over again. Client I had over on the West Coast in California, 6,000 users, and when the help desk, they summed up the tickets they had. This is actually, they have a good help desk system. See if you can get access to that. What we did, we filtered on the ones that contained the word password, as in password reset. Turned out 40% of all those tickets, which took an average of, I mean, you could do from a few minutes, and if you know it was something really challenging out on the other end of the phone line, it could take up to 10 minutes. So you average it out and say, all right, how many minutes are we actually saving the company for? That's your rationale. This is something that the folks up in the bean counter department, they understand. That's dollars and cents. So either you're making the money or you're saving the money. There's no in between. A little bit more different presentation than you expected, right? So of course we'll get into the goodies in a little while. What I want to show you here is a model for thinking about, all right, how do we classify the things that when we walk into a new organization, we have no freaking idea what they have, who's running it, and why they're running it, and why they shouldn't be running it. So, the first thing is to classify what you have as fundamental. What does fundamental mean? Well, if you exist as an employee in this organization, what do you get? Well, chances are you get one of these, you get that pot of flowers on your desk the first day, you get your accounts for 80 and email and whatnot. All these things are the basic stuff. But beyond that, we'll get to that in a moment, this is where user classes subscribe, unsubscribe. Now, you think, oh, subscribe, so that means I have to go and ask for all that? No. The deal here is that once you start, oh, wait with the photos, there's going to be more stuff on that one in a moment. But the deal is you can actually get automatically subscribed to things just by virtue of being in-domain users. You get stuff. And the moment you stop being domain users, and that'll probably be the day you take off, or get hit by a bus or better off. Now, departmental is of course where we start seeing changes. And that is where, if you're in sales, well, you probably have sfdc.com, and we create your cloud account as well. We have the provision for that in automation. But let's say we'll take Joe Schmo and move him from marketing, or from sales over to marketing. Well, he loses access to salesforce.com, but instead he gets Photoshop, right? All these things happen automatically just by virtue of the user moving in or out, or sideways, make lateral movements within the organization. This is where it gets interesting once you move up to a functional level, because that is where, well, things get a little blurry. Why? Because then it's no longer on the department scale. It could be that you are actually still serving a function elsewhere. It could be, let me give you an example that has nothing to do with IT. Large corporate buildings in America, there is always appointed a floor fire chief. That means in case of fire, that is that particular person's job to make sure that floor is cleared, everybody's been sent down the stairs and all this other stuff. Now, in order to have that particular function, you may need to have certain special access. You may have a key card with elevated privileges or something like that. This is also something we tie into very simply, or we being the integrator here. The systems that you can integrate with is basically just, if it's a database at the end of the day that has RFID cards, instead of first day you come, you have to go over, have your picture taken, and then they give you a card with the code for it, put it on the back with a label, and then if you want to change that, you have to go somewhere else, physically, to change it. These are also things that fall under the self-service part. So here, when we deal about functional stuff, again, if somebody needs to get approved for a certain function.
Is it the beer or is it changing? Is it moving?
It's very still. The beer's moving. Okay. So there might very well be a request cycle involved in this. I'm going to give it one more shot and see if my RDP connection is up. If not, again, we'll go straight to the goodies as mentioned before. So I hope you don't get seasick and throw up before that. Neither is my presentation on this. I don't know.
I'm not making any promises.
Yeah. And the last, of course, is the really special stuff. I'll give you another example. So I have a client that has 50 plus domain admins for a shop with about 1,300 people. And they got knocked over pretty badly from one of the larger consultancy companies. That look, you got too many admins, you got too many loose ends here if something goes wrong. So IT management top level, they said, all right, what we want to do is everybody can still get domain access when they need it, but what we want to do is all those guys who have their normal account and then they have their admin account, we're going to strip the administrator right from that one and make it a requestable function. They can get it any time and without any approval, but the important thing here is, guys, there is an audit trail that if by incident that somebody keeled over the Exchange server, we can go back and say who actually had admin rights at that particular time. And of course, we can always see where he was on the system, what applications he was running, and so forth. I know there's a bazillion nice ways we've seen over the last couple of days here how to do that. ResWorks Manager has usage tracking as well. They can do this. Now, let's turn off the lights lean back a little bit, get comfortable, and let's watch something else. I'm gonna hurry through this because I don't want to be between you and the bus tour, so if we end a little time before, that's what we're gonna do. There's that. All right? Now, Alex's camera is allowed because he's probably not gonna publish that before absence. They publish their web console anyway. So,
Nah, it'll be 6 months for this video.
you hear that, Alex? All right. So, please, no cameras on the next thing here. And speaking of absence, I like their little stunt with the mask. Is anybody here from absence today? All right. Well, you might need to wear a mask of your own. All right. That's what the new IT store looks like. Yeah, been cleaned up a lot since the old days. I think I have a screenshot of the old one here when it gets to the services. But essentially what we're looking at here is the dashboard. It'll show you the number of transactions. Normally you'd have to go down and look
I
over.
like the movement in the dashboard.
Yeah.
It's a very interactive dashboard.
It's a 3D board.
All right.
For planning.
Can I take a picture, Lex?
Huh? Yeah, you can, but what the hell are you gonna use it for? All right, so the dashboard here, let's focus on the service here to start with. This is what they look like now. I think, well, we have a close-up here. Business as usual, but this is again in the management console. This is very similar to what they look like today. We have a nice web interface for the users. Danny showed that in his session, so I'm not gonna put time on that. Oh, goody came. I've been totally nagging your session, man. So, the service looks like this in the management console. Do you think we should close the doors here, or are you guys okay?
I like the special effects.
Okay.
We won't survive with
All
the
right.
doors not open.
So let's have a look inside one service. So again, everything's webified. You have the ability to specify the cost here. Now bear in mind, the cost here is still a text string, okay? That has not changed. It's not going to change for the foreseeable future. Along with this, again, I can't mention that, but there's of course some new naming stuff that that's going to go over. Was it Monday? The press release is going to go out. So until then, we can't say the name. So fall, this is just Res 2015. Okay. There's of course the usual where you build up which previews are available for the user. So again, not as much software, screenshots, whatever. It's more like physical objects if there's something you want to request. I remember when we built back at Res was a Japper speakerphone or something like that. So if you want one of those, hey, here's a nice picture of it. You want it? Well, hell, your manager has to approve. Something like that. So screenshots certainly necessary. So, of course, when we do a workflow, because it's not just putting up nice icons and everything, you want to determine what happens. The most important thing when you do a service is the trigger. How do you start the darn thing? Just, do we just throw it after the users that qualifies? Do they have to come and ask for it themselves? Or are there other things that can start it? We need to ask for some stuff, and then we might start some automation. Now remember, what Res has is a three-pronged product suite. One for the user, one for the computers, and one for the organization. So this is for the organization. What's going on here is that IT Store, all it really can do is send messages to either computers or people to do stuff. Hey, run this stuff here, approve this stuff over here. So this is what a workflow looked like back in the old days. This is what it looks like now. So you very visually, like we saw with some other technology in there. So let's have a closer look here. Here's a bigger one for how we create a new persistent Citrix desktop. Let's have a closer look. So we start with a invoke runbook here. That would be a automation piece. And if that fails in one way or another, then we can, in this case, we're brute forcing a power cycle, and we see what happens there. Or we invoke another one here, we delete it, and we start all over again. And you might say, okay, so how much scripting is sitting in here underneath? The sad part, I have to disappoint you, not a whole lot. That not being said, you can't script, of course you can. Because if you develop a PowerShell script from hell that can, spot while underwater, great, by all means use it. There's no need to throw that away. However, the Automation Manager engine underneath here has over 255 built-in, pre-built Lego kit. Yeah, exactly. Think of it as a Lego kit where blocks are already defined. It's just up to your imagination to put them together. Yeah, it is Lego. And you would not be surprised to find that Bob Janssen is probably the biggest Lego fan of RES.
But do you, is your experience that it's very easy to get businesses to deliver the workflow that you are using for the services? Because in my experience, if I talk to the IT guys,
Yes.
talking in processes is not going to work
No.
because you're not getting anything.
Remember the first thing I said?
Yeah, you might
This is
get.
completely different language than we normally speak. I mean, they're right down there with you when you're talking about optimizing your stack and your IOPS and everything else. But this is approaching things from the business side. IT Store is the interface towards the business. So actually, the people who gets involved here are typically the people involved for processes. If you can get HR involved as well, because they know at least what does it take, what do we have to do. But let's talk offboarding for a second. Onboarding, everybody can think, oh, he needs an exchange, he needs 80, he needs this and that. Great. What happens when he gets hit by the proverbial bus? Here's my suggestion. First things first. My postulate is that dead users do not belong in the infrastructure, period. So,
I like that one.
yeah, no skeletons in the closets. But again, there's a certain German company that would disagree with me there. I've seen their infrastructure, even though plus 70K employees, still 250,000 passive accounts. Why? Well, we have a policy we never delete users because what if one day we need something from them? That's that little proverbial fear that keeps them sanding up their environment with useless data. So what should, in my opinion, should happen? A, we take their Exchange mailbox and dump them into a PSD file. That's the only thing those damn things are good for.
First, send flowers to the widow.
Okay. Point. So,
And the rest.
Automated.
all right. Step one, dump the Exchange. We actually have a task for that, so you don't need to script that either. Step two, create a tombstone file. What the hell is that? It's basically just a text file. Here lies user Bob or Hansen, let's call him that. And he used to be a member of these groups, and he had these roles, and da. So you ever wonder, 5 years down the road, what did this guy do anyway? It'll be in the tombstone file. And then you zip the whole damn thing up, and then throw it out to Amazon Glacier Storage. Bye-bye. So if we ever need to look at his stuff again, sure, it might take 7 hours to get it back, who cares? As long as we know it's there. So offboarding, think it through, ladies and gentlemen, that part is just as important. There are loads of portals out there that can give you apps and apps and apps. But again, what happens when we take them back? What happens when we take the account back? That is the mindset we need to embrace. So here's another view. This is where we pick out the components to create the workflows we saw here. So let's look a little closer here. So there's approvals. There's confirmations. You might say, well, what the heck is the difference between approval and confirmation? Well, approval is that, for example, let's say in a twisted parallel universe that Rob was my boss, that if I need to ask for something, it'll route over by his desk, and he will say yes or no. But a confirm action would actually be for myself. So, are you sure you want to do this? That's something like that. The invoke runbook. We've seen runbooks during these days here as well in other products. Again, the res definition of a runbook is a process that handles or that runs across multiple machines doing different things. An onboarding scenario is easy to understand. We need a AD user over here, we need an Exchange account over there, we need a file share here, we need an account on the Linux system there, and there. All that can be done in one runbook. We can address all those systems. And these are the tools you do it with. And last but not least, here's the log, how that looks in the new interface. And back at the dashboard, let's have a quick look at what people looks like. So again, there's no point in creating services if you cannot define people. So what is a person defined as? Very simple. One thing, and one thing only is a mandatory. A name. How long do I have? I'm finished. Shoot. All right.